Talk about Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, and the question as to whether there was some kind of a pay-to-play arrangement between the foundation and Hillary Clinton and her top aides at the State Department. Laura, you know, this nexus between the foundation and the State Department has never gained the political traction, let's say, of the emails or of Benghazi. Do these latest set of emails, does that change that? Is it going to make it a bigger deal?
Well, one would think it should under current federal corruption law, where it states that if a federal official receives anything of value in exchange for changing federal policy or federal action, you could be held liable. In this case, perhaps we'll learn more with other email releases, but one thing that's clear in the release of these emails is that, boy, when you give $1 million to $5 million to the Clinton Foundation, you can really cut through the bureaucracy fast. I mean, that Mr. Whatever it's Gowdery or Chowdhury, Shaggery, he was able to cut through all the way to Huma Abedin. They were able to connect him with the Assistant Secretary of Near East Affairs, and apparently it went from there in a phone conversation. Now, what happened in the phone conversation, we don't know. But it's clear that the Clinton Foundation was a conduit for influencing federal officials at the State Department. Again, to what extent? We don't know. Is it just to get a job? Is it just to get a meeting, a hearing on a future project? This is what we always thought might have been at the heart of this Clinton Foundation email issue.
All right, let's remind folks, give you an example of what we're talking about. And here is an exchange, and let's put it up on the screen, an email exchange in 2009 between Doug Band, who was a top official of the foundation, as well as President Clinton's personal aide and top Clinton aide Huma Abedin. Band, I'm going to do a dramatic reading here. We need Gilbert Shaggery, who was a top donor to the foundation, to speak to the substance person, Ray Lebanon. As you know, he's a key guy there and to us, and is loved in Lebanon. Abedin email. It's Jeff Feldman, who was then the U.S. ambassador to Lebanon. I'm sure he knows him. I'll talk to Jeff. Band, better if you call him. Now preferable. This is very important. Chuck, big deal, small deal, no deal?
I think it depends a lot on what was so important and what was the matter involving Lebanon that was so urgent that, as Laura suggests, the usual bureaucratic hoops would not do, that you had to go straight to the top in this way. And of course, another thing that will make a lot of difference is whether Hillary Clinton herself knew about this or got involved directly one way or the other. So far, there's no evidence of that. It's interesting to point out here that Doug Band and Huma Abedin aren't at arm's length. I mean, they're in business together, if I remember the story.
They weren't then, but they are now.
But they are later on.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a very interlocked group of people. One of the things that the Clinton campaign tried to say in defense of this was that Doug Band and all of this was just acting as an advisor to Bill Clinton. That was the hat he was wearing, not as in his role as in the Clinton Foundation. And I'm not sure.
I was going to say, that explains how complicated this all is, because they're making a distinction, some would say a Clintonian distinction, between Doug Band, advisor to the president, and Doug Band, who was a top official at the Clinton Foundation. Same Doug Band.
Yeah, and what difference does it make, because that former president is the husband of the Secretary of State? I mean, it's all just kind of one big kind of ball of mush.
Now, we should point out that the Clinton Foundation, and even basically, in effect, in an interview with me about 10 days ago, Secretary Clinton said that there's never been proof, there's never been a smoking gun, there's never been evidence that she did anything quid pro quo, made any decision as a result of any foundation gift or any speaking fee to her husband. Here's the reaction to the latest batch of emails from Donnie Fowler, who's a former official in the Clinton administration. Take a look.
These emails were between staffers. This was not Secretary Clinton involved in this discussion. Second, here's what American people hear about Hillary Clinton in this issue. Emails, 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 blah, 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 blah. Emails, 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 blah, blah, blah. It's already baked into this election. This isn't going to really change the direction of this race.
Charles, I never thought I would ask you this question, but blah, blah, blah?
Look, I think this guy's whistling in the dark. This is, I think, can be quite ominous. There are two questions that have been outstanding forever. The first is, what exactly does the foundation do? I know what Habitat for Humanity does. I know what the Gates Foundation does. It is obvious that it was a huge networking operation, funding, supporting, and giving jobs to the entire Clinton retinue waiting for her accession, for the Clintons to return to the White House. And the second question is, why did she have a private server? I have always speculated here, and I said it was pure speculation, that the real stuff, the reason she had to hide all this, obviously she meant to hide things, was because there is something having to do with the foundation. And that's where you would put all the so-called private stuff. It wasn't yoga lessons or wedding invitations. If there was anything about improper connections, and we see them here, this is just a hint of it. This is a few emails. What was in the 30,000? If anybody gets their hands on them, Russian or not, they could come spilling out stuff that could destroy her candidacy. She knows what's in there. But if anything, it's the connection between the foundation and what she did as Secretary of State. Whether there was a direct quid pro quo, I think, is irrelevant. We're talking now not about criminal activity, but the political effect, and it could be devastating.
Laura, let me ask you, because as I said, Secretary Clinton and all of her top campaign officials and aides from the State Department say, look, there's no smoking gun here. There's been a lot of investigation. A fellow, Peter Schweitzer, wrote the book, Clinton Cash.
Yep.
There's no quid pro quo, at least hard evidence. Does that make a difference?
Yeah, well, I think, again, it probably would be somewhat persuasive if indeed there weren't so many missing emails. If she hadn't lied to, you know, when she discussed turning over all her emails, as we know Jim Comey said she didn't tell the truth on that. So maybe if we had all those emails and all that communication was in the public, then maybe we could take her at face value. But I think the big question mark now is what was in those emails, as Charles said. And I bet some of them had something to do with the CGI, the Clinton Global Initiative. I've always thought that, and you know, maybe we'll know, maybe we won't.
All right, panel, we have to take a